Sandy was a mentally disabled patient at the Elwyn Institute. Heidnik had raped Sandy while she was at the facility, and she became pregnant. Heidnik found out she had aborted the pregnancy and offered her money to have another child. He then abducted Sandy from the institute and brought her to his house. Heidnik raped both of his captives and began widening the hole they were stuck in. Sandy's cousins came to Heidnik's house to find her, but when they knocked, Heidnik didn't answer. They left, and Heidnik forced Sandy to write a letter explaining to her mother that she left the institute and would call her later. Heidnik traveled to New York to send the letter. Sandy's mother didn't fall for the letter. She reported Sandy's disappearance to the police. She also gave them Heidnik's address. She told the police she believed Sandy was being held hostage, but the letter combined with a Christmas card containing $5 had the police believing she was just another runaway. Heidnik became more unstable. During the weeks he had the women hostage, he would beat and rape them constantly. They were kept naked and huddled together for warmth. Heidnik was starving them, and they were slowly dying.
They go down in the hole in the morning, board goes over the top of the hole with the sandbags, and et cetera, and then they stay down there till roughly about 8 at night.
Me and Sandra, for the first month, me and Sandra were there by ourselves. Take any baths, we didn't comb our hair, right? We spent most of the time in the hole. He would bring us hot chocolate in the morning for breakfast. And then when we went down, like at night, he would bring down maybe 2 or 3 hot dogs or something like that.
On December 22nd, Heidnik went on a search for another victim. Lisa Thomas, just 19 years old, was walking to a friend's house when Heidnik stopped his car alongside her. He thought she was a sex worker and attempted to pick her up. Lisa was upset with this suggestion. Heidnik apologized and offered her a ride. She accepted. Heidnik brought her to her friend's house. He waited for her, and when she was done at her friend's house, she got back in the car, and he took her to dinner. He then took Lisa back to his house, where he drugged her glass of wine. When she came to, she was in Heidnik's bedroom, where he raped her. Just as he did with Josefina, he choked her, handcuffed her, and brought her to the basement, where she would join the other hostages in the pit. Heidnik's third victim was Deborah, a 19-year-old woman he abducted. She fought him every step of the way. She fought all the way up to when he threw her in the pit. Heidnik brutally beat her because of her resistance. Soon this became a daily event for all his captives. Jacqueline was only 18 years old. She was another sex worker that Heidnik lured into capture. Heidnik repeated the same twisted routine that he did to all his victims. At the time of Jacqueline's abduction, it was the 18th of January, 1987. Josefina, his first victim, had been abducted for 52 days. She had begun to convince Heidnik that she enjoyed being part of his tribe. Heidnik's methods became increasingly disturbing. Instead of having sex with the women, he watched as he made them have sex with each other. Eventually, he would allow them to take baths in the main house and provided a portable toilet into the basement. Depending on his mood, he would feed the women. Some days, it was tins of dog food, and on special occasions like Josefina's birthday, he gave them Chinese food and champagne. In February of 1987, he caught Sandy trying to move the planks of wood that covered the pit. He hanged Sandy from her wrist with a handcuff for days. After 9 days in that position, she was dying. She lost consciousness. Heidnik unlocked the handcuff, and she fell to the ground. Sandy was dead.
Our whole body just fell. And she was just like, the only thing that was holding her up was just the handcuff, you know? And I kept saying, Lisa, go over there and tap Sandra and tell her, you know, see what's wrong with her, because her whole body was collapsed. And she kept tapping her, and Sandra didn't move, you know? He's like, she's dead. You know, she's dead. And that like really had me so messed up because Sandra had been there with me from the beginning, you know?
He wouldn't simply bury the body. He dismembered Sandy's body with a power saw. He forced Jacqueline to assist in the murder.
I dismembered the body and I started burning it on the stove.
He got Sandra's head cooking in a pot upstairs, right? And he got her ribs and stuff in a little roasting pan in the oven, you know, and her arms and stuff is in the freezer. And he says that if I don't cut out my bullshit, that this is going to be me. They were watching an Apple dog food commercial or some kind of dog food commercial, and they were like saying, damn, that dog food looks good. It looks good enough to eat. So Donnie says, Gary, Deborah says that she would eat dog food and stuff if you would give it to her, but that's not what she said. So Gary goes upstairs and he gets the dog food and he brings it downstairs and he makes these three eat them, the ones that was on punishment.
However, they don't know what else is in the dog food.
He was taking Sandra's body and grinding it in a food processor and mixing it with this dog food that he was feeding these three other girls.
By this time, Heidnik's personality disorder was spiraling out of control. He was convinced the women were planning to kill him and escape. He stuck sharp objects in their ears to deafen them. He hanged his victims with cuffs like he did to Sandy. He filled the hole in the floor with water and used a live wire for electrocution. He pushed Jacqueline, Deborah, and Lisa into the water.
He used to fill the hole up with water and take electrical wire. Well, like a plug that you plug in, he would strip the two wires, and then he would take the wire while they were in the water and put it on their chains. And in the beginning, Deborah was hollering, and then she didn't holler anymore, and he thought something was wrong with the wire. I said, look down there in that hole and see what's wrong with that girl. I said, because she keeps saying Deborah dead, that she laying face down in the water.
Deborah collapsed in the water dead. Josephina wasn't put through this part of the torture, but Heidnik did make her help him with the electrocution. Heidnik forced Josephina to write a letter stating she helped punish the women and killed Deborah.
I, Josephina Rivera, and Gary Heidnik electrocuted Deborah Dudley at 3520 North Marshall Street on whatever day it was. I can't remember. It might have been, she was freed on 25th. It might have been like the 21st of March, 1987, by applying electricity to her chains while sitting in a pool of water.
Heidnik told Josephina to go upstairs and get changed. Over the coming weeks, she accompanied him on shopping trips and went to restaurants with him. Heidnik reminded Josephina of the letter he made her write and told her, if caught, he would plead insanity. Gary had a New Jersey map, and we went out and stopped at the Burlington Flea Market. From there, we pulled into a little place like a little driveway, and Gary said, "This is it. This is where I am going to place Deborah's body at." Heidnik walked deep into the park because he didn't want anybody to find it that was strolling through. With Deborah gone, Heidnik sought a replacement for his group of captives. March 24th, 1987, he and Josephina drove the streets of Philadelphia. This is where they found Agnes, a woman familiar to Heidnik as a sex worker and to Josephina as a colleague. Gary told me that if I helped him pick her up, after he finished with her, he would let me contact my family. Once he had Agnes back at his house, He played out the same disturbing set of events he did to all his victims: sex, strangle, handcuffs, basement. Again, Heidnik was in search of yet another girl. Josefina had gained Heidnik's trust by this point. She convinced him that she could get him a girl by herself. I told him I had proved myself to him and that I had to get the girl by myself. I told him to wait at the gas station at 6th and Girard, that this girl lived a couple of blocks away, and I had to walk up to her house myself. Josefina ran to her apartment, and her boyfriend opened the door. She tried to explain what had happened, but he didn't believe her. Josefina went to a phone booth and contacted the police. 3520 North Marshall Street, Heidnik's residence. The police arrive, and once Heidnik answers the door, the horrific smell of the house is overwhelming. Heidnik is taken into custody. Josefina leads the officers to the basement. The girls were freed and given medical treatment. As the police searched the residence, what they found was horrifying. Body parts from the murder of Sandy in the freezer and bones in the oven. Heidnik was charged with murder, rape, kidnapping, assault, involuntary sexual intercourse, indecent exposure, false imprisonment, unlawful restraint, and several other crimes. Over 27 pounds of human remains were found in Heidnik's home. July 1st, 1988, after 16 hours of deliberation, Gary Michael Heidnik was sentenced to death.